get into a video all about making goat's milk with full goat's milk that you can just get at your local shopping centre. It's super duper easy and I'm going to show you a few tricks. So this is the goat's milk that I'm using, which I've just got from Woolworths, which is my local shopping centre. So literally what we're going to do is we're going to pour all of it into some ice cube trays or any container that you've got at home that's clean. Make sure you pop it through the dishwasher or something first, because if there's any little bits that aren't sanitized in them, it can cause a DOS, which is just an ugly yellowy sort of thing that can be on the outside of your soap. Or you can also get DOS by old oils. But for today, like I said, we're going to just organize all of our milk, put it in our little containers, and then we're going to pop it in the freezer overnight. And you may be asking, why are you doing this? We can just add the lye directly to the milk, which, yes, you're right, we can do that. But the problem with adding your lye or your sodium hydroxide directly into the milk, the problem starts to come because the milk can be scorched, it can be burnt, and it smells terrible. So really a horrible smell, and you definitely don't want that. So we need this to keep as cool as we can, because obviously by adding sodium hydroxide, which that is what creates our lye content in this soap, which will be the milk and the sodium hydroxide, that gets very, very hot, and we want to keep it as cool as we can. And by creating the ice, then that actually just does help us, doesn't it? So like I said, we're just going to pour it all in here. I'm using 2 litres of this goat's milk, but you probably don't need 2 litres in this mixture, but I just thought I'll freeze extra just in case, and if I have extra, then I'll make up a new recipe. So if you're wanting the recipe for this one, it will be over on Patreon, but I'm sure that you can watch ahead and understand exactly what I'm doing. And the great thing about these videos is if you go back to my earlier videos, there are recipes on there and you can use those as well, but you would need to pop this one back through soap calc if you want to do it yourself. Now I am using a 6% super fat in this one. That's just what I've decided to use, and there's not a lot of ingredients in this one, which is really good. If you don't want to use the full goat's milk, you can literally buy powder and you can mix it with water. That is something you can do as well. But the good thing about real goat's milk, and like you said, you can see it here, this is just natural goat's milk. Obviously, it's at my shopping centre. But the good thing about this is it has all the fats that you actually want in goat's milk. And the reason we want that is for people with eczema and skin conditions, dry skin, this can really help. And I know because one of my daughters has severe eczema. She has all of her life, and to the stage where she had to be bedridden. So, goat's milk really does help that dry skin. Not that I'm making any promises at all, but it's just a known fact that goat's milk just has that beautiful fatty sort of content. So now these are ready. We're going to just pop them into the freezer and we will come back. Now we're going to start on our butters. So once we've got this in the freezer, and in the meantime, we can organize all the butters because we need them to cool down for many, many hours. So what I do with mine is I measure them all up. Then I go and pop all of mine in a slow cooker on low. And that way it just heats it really, really low without taking any benefits away from these beautiful butters and oils. So in here, as you can see at the start, I'm going to be adding in my coconut oil. I'd actually ran out of the big container that I buy usually in wholesale lots. I usually get them, but unfortunately I'd ran out, and I really wanted to get this video to you guys, and I'm pretty much out of a lot of goat's milk soap. So I thought I'm just going to grab some coconut oil off the shelf. You can grab it off the shelf. This one I think is about 500 grams or so. I think maybe 900 grams actually in this bottle for about $9. So it's definitely cheaper if you buy it wholesale. So if you're making a lot, definitely buy wholesale. But if you just want to give it a go, well, you can just go to your shopping centre and get, your coconut. And if you're putting this in soap calc, on soap calc, it will say coconut oil 76. 76 is this hard coconut oil we're talking about on here. And don't get confused on soap calc because there are many different coconut oils. There's a couple different ones, but the 76 is what you all know to use for soaping, isn't it? So for soap making. So we're just going to pop it all in here, weigh it all up. And then after I've done this, like I said, I'm going to go over to the slow cooker, pop all of this in. And the idea with putting this in the slow cooker is we want to let go and make sure that it's melting down low. And then once it's all melted down, we're going to turn the slow cooker off. And then I literally leave the lid on that and I just leave it to cool down, usually overnight. So if you're freezing your milks and doing your oils at the same time, come back tomorrow and you know everything's going to be cool and ready to go, because we don't want anything overheating that can cause cracking in your goat's milk soap. It can also help everything to seize up. So we definitely don't want that. We want to work fast. And with this one, I'm also going to put an essential oil blend, just a tiny bit of rosemary and soothing lavender. So, but you don't have to do that. You can have it totally plain. I also have another one that is totally plain. So like I said, for this one, that is what I'm actually going to be doing. And I'm also going to add just a tiny weeny bit of green clay just to put a colour through the middle, because we don't want to add micas to this natural soap. I just think it's better to keep it with the clay. And there's many different clays, and there's also different powders and things like that that you can use to colour your soaps. You can get so many. I mean, you know, you can make your own rose water, which we've just brought out a video on that just to show you. You can colour the water with that. Also, dragon fruit powder, you can do that. Beetroot powder, although beetroot makes it go a little brown. Turmeric, I mean, you know, the list is endless. And of course, all the different reds and greens and kaolin clays, pink clays, and so on. You can add, like I said, if you want to naturally colour it. But lots of goat's milk would just be a white. But for this one, I thought, let's just do it a little bit different, because people have been saying to me, you know, that they need to use goat's milk, but sometimes they do want a bit of a scent. And, you know, often goat's milk is just, like I said, just sold in its plain form with no flavours, no scents, no anything else in it. I definitely would say stay away from fragrance oils in goat's milk soap and only use essential oils, because goat's milk, generally people that are buying that are sensitive to a lot of things. So anyway, so we're going to get all the coconut oil. We are almost done piling it up in this container. I definitely needed lots for this mix, which is 2,500 grams in this mix. And then, of course, like I said, let's go over to the slow cooker and we'll get going. A last little look now that we've done that one, so that you can see how beautiful and white this coconut oil is. I just love the look of it. So now what I'm doing in here is I'm putting my cocoa butter in here. For anybody that wants to know, I actually buy mine from Deluxe Shea Butter. They're based in Adelaide, but all of these butters, they do shea butter, cocoa, mango, lots of other ones like that, and they are all processed and whipped and made from the ladies in Ghana, and it's fair trade certified, so I absolutely love it. And you know, it's a big thing for me to buy that, and it's worth every cent of buying it, and it really does create a gorgeous bar of soap. So now what I'm popping in here is the shea butter. This here is unrefined shea butter as well. It feels really soft and sort of fluffy and gorgeous, and this is what I actually use for my body butters as well. So like I said, we're going to be popping equal parts of cocoa butter and shea butter into this recipe as well. And this is my own recipe, so when you're making one, you can change things around. Just make sure you pop it through to soap calc again. So now here you go, it is in my slow cooker, so I'm going to turn this on. This will take about 40 minutes just to make it melt down on a very slow heat, and then I'm going to take it off, let it cool down, and then I'll bring you back and we will be on to the fun bit of making the soap. Now let's get on to the lye part of the soap. And of course, lye is your liquid portion and sodium hydroxide. So if you didn't know, or you're a little bit confused why the word lye is, that's basically what it means. It just means your water and your sodium hydroxide, or in this case, we're using full cream milk and or a goat's milk. And the goat's milk, so basically when you see a recipe on soap calc, when you figure out your recipe, the water portion you can change with another other liquid such as, milk. Some people use almond milk. You can use rose water, aloe vera. There's so many different things that you can actually use in the water portion. So be creative and you can create some really, really beautiful products. So these were a little bit tricky to get out of the mold, but if you do leave them sit on the bench for about 10 minutes, it's much, much easier to get out, because that way it sort of starts to melt a tiny weeny bit for you to easily get them out of the mold. So now I'm just going to be adding my sodium hydroxide. This one, if anyone's wondering where I actually get it from, I get it from my local hardware store called Bunnings, and on the packet or the container it says for soap making. So do remember that not all sodium hydroxides are equal. Some have additives in them for drain cleaner, but this one says for soap making. So you must make sure that it's definitely for soap making, or get it from a company that you can talk to them about it and read the packet quite clearly. But anyway, so now what we're going to do is make sure everything's on the scale. Make sure you get the right amount. You cannot have too much sodium hydroxide. It definitely needs to be the amount that is on the recipe. If not, then you've got a problem, because if you put too much in, it is just going to be lye heavy and not good at all. So anyway, like I said, make sure you follow the recipe super, super well down to the last gram. When mixing the sodium hydroxide, make sure you mix it super well, and you'll be able to feel with the spatula on the bottom, it will kind of feel like sand on the bottom if it is not diluted and done all of its thing yet. So do make sure that you mix it, and I always mix mine for extra longer, because I would rather 100% know that it is totally dissolved and I'm not going to have any problems, because of course if you have little bits of lye left in it, well, you can't use it as soap. It's quite dangerous to use. So you've got to really make sure that your lye content is totally melted and it's ready to go. And then of course, even though it's frozen, it will still be a tiny bit warm. So then we need to get it down to a really good temperature, because if your oils or your lye are warm, it can seize up your soap. So do make sure that you really know that it's, like I said, nice and perfect temperature, that it is totally diluted down and, mixed in super well. But you can't smell any smell in this, so it's definitely a really, really good thing to do, isn't it? So to make sure that all this milk is frozen, and you can use this with anything. So even when you're doing rose water or anything like that, if you just freeze it the night before, then you can do this same sort of process with anything, with aloe vera, rose water, even your standard distilled water. It doesn't matter. You can definitely do this process. So I hope that kind of helps you just a little bit. So let's go and we will mix up this full portion as well, and it's going to be really nice. We are going to add some clays in for colour. Clays are really, really good to add for colour, because when making goat's milk, really you don't want to be adding in micas and things like that, because some people could be sensitive to that. Generally, people using goat's milk have more sensitive skin or eczema and things like that, so they don't want too many additives or fragrance oils or anything. I don't add any fragrance oils in this. We will be adding in a bit of lavender and a bit of rosemary essential oil only, but only a very, very small portion of that, about 0.5%. So, a really, really tiny bit. Anyway, I'm just scraping out the last bit of the lye since we changed containers, and making sure that I mix all of this. And then I'm going to come back and show you how much fun we're going to have making the next bit. This is my favorite part of soap, when we actually get to make the design and see it all come together, because it's so much fun. So anyway, let's get going. Now let's organise our clays. So inside my containers here, I just have 1 or 2 spoonfuls of oil, just a carrier oil, sweet almond, and then we're just going to put a spoon. It's really only a teaspoon or so in these, because this little spoon I'm using, I think it's like 1/2 teaspoon or something like that. But yeah, so anything from 1/2 teaspoon to a tablespoon, because we're just going to mix this in, and this is not going to be in the main recipe. It's just going to be in a small part of the recipe to just bring the colours. So this one I'm using is a Australian red earth clay, which gives a really nice kind of rusted sort of ready kind of look, which I think goes with my whole theme that I'm going for with this soap. And then the second one that I'm using, once again, I have my carrier oil, and then this is some green clay. So green clay will, it does look really green, but once it goes in soap, it's not super, super bright. It's only like a lighter one, unless you add more of the green clay, and I didn't want to add too much. Always make sure too that you Google and go back and have a look at benefits of different clays, because different clays have different benefits and properties, just the same as oils do. So I always suggest that you go back and have a look and sort of understand what you're actually popping into the soap. So now here are all my oils. These are my melted oils, as well as we've got our olive oil in here and so on. So this recipe doesn't have lots of oils like I usually do, but it does have my oils and butters and so on. But now we're going to just organize the next portion, which is we're going to be popping in the lye. Don't panic in goat's milk soap if you see your lye turn bright yellow, because it will do that, and it's just the goat's milk. But don't worry, it's not going to change anything, and it will come back to a creamy kind of ivory type colored sort of soap. I'm not putting titanium dioxide or anything like that in this. We're just going to leave it as natural as it falls, because once again, as I said, additives in it, people could be allergic, or it may hurt their skin more if they're very sensitive. So it's best to keep it as clean and natural as we can. So let's go and give this one a bit of a zoom. And you know, always with this too, sometimes people say to me that they, you know, it's seizing up straight away. Often it might mean that you're just, you know, using your stick blender too much. So I just give it short bursts, you know, just a few seconds really. Burst, then mix it with the mixer, then turn it around and so on. And I'm sorry for the beeping in the background, but my other computer is on and it keeps beeping. I will cut a few of them out if I can. But anyway, that's basically what we're doing. So now it's all gorgeous. We're going to add a couple bits into different containers, because these ones are going to have our mixtures in here of our clay. So we'll have some red clay in one, green in another, and then I'm going to swirl this into the soap just to give it a little bit of a unique kind of look, because some goat's milk soap is really boring, and often people that buy it say to me, oh, I wish there was more colours or something in goat's milk. So this way we're still kept it natural with clays, but we're also going to do, like I said, the next portion of it by just adding in a bit of colour. So let's just zoom this up a bit more, because it's not totally ready. I always separate it early on, and then just, you know, obviously making sure it's just combined, but then we do need to, of course, use a stick blender to get it to a little bit of a trace or emulsion, which just means it's mixed in properly and it's not separating. That just means that the lye and oils and that aren't separating. And obviously we need that in soap. So it's really hard to get to the stage of understanding that bit. If you're not confident with that, just make sure you see the trace on the soap. So now let's go and pop in our clays into each of these two individual containers, and then we will give them a little bit of a zoom with the stick blender, and then we can get on to the next bit. So now let's keep blending. As I said, we'll blend the three individual containers. So we have the red clay in one, the green clay in the other, and then the big container is our base mixture. And if for anyone that's just starting out on soap, that's generally what you do. You would have your base, which is the main color of your soap, and then these added bits are going to be just your additives that we're going to add in the soap. So if you did a rainbow soap, for instance, you might have it white, and then you would have all the colors that you would add in at a later date. And you can just pull it out of one container and mix it in. You don't need to clean the end of the blender, because usually it just blends in with the soap anyway, unless you're, you know, you wouldn't put black into white, but anyway, you get the hint anyway. So just for anyone that was new at soap making and wondering why we're doing this process as well. Also, do make sure that your molds or anything that you're doing are really clean. You may need to spray them out, you know, just to make sure they're sanitized, because sometimes little dots can get on things or little marks if they're not perfectly clean. So now here we go. We do have our mold. This is the one my husband made, and I've just lined it with grease-proof paper. I have given a video on how to actually fold, you know, this as well. And you can use any container. If you're new, you don't need a box. I mean, you could use a shoe box as long as it has the right paper in it to protect the side of the box. You know, you can use anything. But in here, let's just go and add our main portion. So, of course, this is the base color, and this is just the natural base color. Like I said, I haven't added any additives or anything like that in. But before doing this, do remember I have actually added a few drops of, I've added about 10 drops of lavender and about 10 of rosemary in this full mix as well. Now, we're just going to get the colors, and we're just going to hold some up high and some down lower, and that way what's going to happen is we'll give a nice little light sort of color in the middle of this soap to just give it a little bit of difference. One thing I do have to tell everybody, when you're making a palm-free soap, often it is not as thick as soap that would have a palm oil in it. It's definitely much thinner. So now we've done all of that. I've set it aside. I know I've skipped everybody, but here we go. Let's get on to cutting our gorgeous, gorgeous soap. So it's the next day now. I did end up coming back and doing a few swirls on the top just to give that a little bit of interest. Now I'm going to just cut it in 1.3 centimeter widths. That's basically the width of my soap, and this one holds really nice in your hand. So do make sure when you're making soap that someone can hold it easily in their hand. There's nothing more annoying than having soap that isn't that easy to hold. So, you know, it might look beautiful to us, but just remember somebody's still got to use this in the shower, and don't make them too big and they can't fit in the holders either, because that's also annoying. Now, look how gorgeous this looks. Don't these colors just look so, so pretty? So we've just, like I said, instead of just a boring plain goat's milk soap, just adding this little bit of clay will just give it a little bit of fun, a little bit of difference as well. So I hope that, you know, adding this in, you can see how you can just change it a little bit. Still really natural, but you can just change this one a little. I will have these on my site soon, and I will also have them for wholesale. At the moment they're not quite ready, but we will definitely have these up for wholesale clients as well, because I know lots of you that buy from me in your stores are going to ask that. So I will pop that on. We're still working on wholesale, just fixing it up for the new part of the site. So I promise it will be on very soon, everybody. But for now, you can just enjoy me making this soap and making it super, super gorgeous, and showing you how I cut it all as well. This cutter as well is an amazing cutter. It comes from a little Etsy store, so I will leave the links down for their store in Etsy as well. And one of you beautiful people bought this for me from that store, so it was so lovely of you. I really do appreciate it even now, and it's been several months since you sent it to me. Now here you go. I put all my stamping on here as well. We are totally finished. So let's go and let these ones cure, and we will bring them back. You know, obviously when they're ready in 6 weeks' time, then they can go out for sale, and you lovely people can all buy them if you would like. But I hope that you have loved this video. If you do, make sure you do give me a massive thumbs up, because that really does help me on here as well. And at the end, I have put some gorgeous people's names that are supporting me on YouTube, and of course on Patreon as well. But we appreciate everyone, whether they are on Patreon or whether they watch me on YouTube. You guys are amazing. Anyway, I'll see you on the next video, everyone. Bye for now.